The information provided in this show is for informational and educational purposes only. This show is not investment advice, nor is it intended to address the financial needs of any particular viewer. The opinions expressed on this show are not intended to be an endorsement of any particular investment, strategy of service, or any other kind. You must make an independent decision regarding investments or strategies mentioned throughout the show. Before acting on information in the show, you should consider whether it is suitable for your particular situation and strongly consider seeking advice from a financial advisor. I'm really looking forward to our next guest that we're going to be having today, Michael Schumacher, and he is so different in the perspective to what you believe real estate to be. So he has a very unique approach with commercial real estate, and also he's created a fund for the ability to go into these loaning situations that he does for investors. And it's a very unique short-term approach, but it's a great return on invested capital, and you have liquidity sooner rather than later if you need it. So I encourage you to listen more, and it's a very unique opportunity to glean some questions or information from Michael when we're speaking today. And we're very fortunate to have him as our guest on the show for Ways to Love Your Money. So stay tuned, and we'll be starting that interview just shortly. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Elisabeth Dawson. Here's our show, Ways to Love Your Money, and I'm so glad that we have our next guest here, Michael Schumacher, and he's going to tell you a little bit about his investment world business that he's done and what drives him and what his passion is all about. And so without further ado, thank you so much for being here, Michael.
Thank you. It's an honor.
Good. So tell me a little bit about your passion for coming into the industry that you're in today, and a little bit of the background of what you're actually doing now, your focus.
Sure, absolutely. So my background is in commercial real estate development and finance, and so that includes really building office buildings like the one we're in today, industrial buildings, retail, things like that. And so my history has been in the investing side. And so today what we do is we help out investors and borrowers who are investors who have money that are in a position where they want to lend out and get a good return, and also to help out with borrowers who are typically investors. Sometimes they're folks that are trying to solve estate planning issues, things of that nature. And so we come together and bring those two groups together.
And I know that you have a very unique opportunity with that as well, because let's say that there's an investor in a piece of real estate, and I know we've talked about these situations before, but they might not be able to just go to a regular bank to get financing. But your unique approach to what you do is very different than, let's say, what a bank would do. But you're trying to help them raise the capital at the same time. Can you explain that a little bit?
Sure, absolutely. So what we do, because we're in the private money space, we really fit in on a short-term basis for borrowers, typically 2 years or so if somebody wants to go borrow some money that has a property. And so there's a lot of reasons why traditional banks who are subject to a lot of regulation just don't have the ability to do certain loans, commercial loans. Sometimes that has to do with the property, sometimes it has to do with the borrower or just the situation at hand. And other times the borrower would be able to get traditional financing, but they just don't want to go through the 2 or 3 month uncertain process and all the paperwork. And so where we fit in is we come in and we're a temporary solution for them. And we give them the opportunity to unlock some of the equity and the capital that's in their properties. And whether it's a property owner, a business owner, a developer, or again, somebody who's got an estate planning issue, the common denominator is these are folks that have wealth, but it is locked up in real estate, and it's very difficult for them to access that cash.
Yes, we call that brick and mortar.
Yeah.
They have a liquidity problem. And people don't like liquidity problems, but we kind of deal with those, especially here in the state of California. Wouldn't you agree?
Very much, absolutely.
So I think it's a wonderful approach that you actually do to help those investors, entrepreneurs, people that have actually a great history. But I know that the financial responsibility to be able to qualify for even your type of financing for them or different type of investments that they do, that's really important. I know you talk a little bit about accredited investors. So these are places where we have to have a respect of money. can you tell me a little bit about how you feel that the financial responsibility and the respect for money has been so important with the people that you work with, but also in your life?
Well, yeah, that's a great question. And, we've got a lot of responsibility to not only our investors, which includes myself, but also the borrowers who are involved in the picture as well. So, everybody's got their own view on money and how to treat money and how they see it. For us and for me in particular, I've never been one of those people that is looking for the high returns at the expense of climbing up the ladder of risk. So, I'm very cautious in the way we approach things with our investors, and we do have investors that are typically accredited investors, and they're in a position for the most part of preserving their wealth, and they're in a retirement or they're close to a retirement situation, and this provides them an opportunity, for cash flow, something that's tax advantage, and something that's not necessarily correlated to the stock market.
Well, and you mentioned something to me too, that you have a favorite quote from Warren Buffett. Rule 1 and Rule 2.
Right. Rule 1, don't lose money, first of all. And Rule 2, I think, is don't forget rule number 1.
Right. And we pride that in our practice too, and the things that we do as well. No one ever likes to lose money. And there's other things that I always say around that too, but no one ever likes to lose money. So right from the beginning, work on that path so that you're not losing money at all.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I know you've been working in real estate for quite some time. You have a big reputation in San Diego County, and you have a legacy that I believe that you want to build, especially for your children. What's important to you about that family legacy?
Well, let me start by saying my wife and I luckily share our philosophy on money and how to plan for the future.
Right.
We are not a keeping up with the Joneses kind of a family. So for us, money is less about the ability for what it'll get us, not the fanciest car or things like that. It's really avoiding things that we find distasteful, not having food, shelter, ability to provide insurance and fund our kids' college and things of that nature. And so I think for us, when you have that orientation, it changes the way you think about the world. And I think it also tends to open up opportunities because you're not chasing really a dollar. You're really just focused on security and making sure that your family is provided for. And I think if there's one thing that I could pass along to my kids is to have that philosophy. And what I've learned in business is if you take care of others first, the rest will come in, later, and you'll be taken care of eventually. So that's, that conservative approach is, I think, less common than I would expect it to be or hope to be. For folks out there investing.
Right, and I think you have some of those, different from California values. You came from a different part of the country before you came here, and I know you had some trips along the way to get you here.
Yep.
So sometimes I always say people from the East Coast or Midwest values have a completely different outlook on how money and finance should actually be respected and earned and taken care of and then passed down to the next generation.
Sure.
So I'm thankful for you sharing that. Now, what's a fun fact about you?
Well, a fun fact, I guess, when I finished up my undergrad, I sold everything I had, which wasn't much.
Okay.
And I bought a backpack and an airline ticket, and I backpacked around New Zealand for a couple weeks and Australia for 3 months. So I lived there for a while, thought I was going to get a job in Australia, realized when I got there that I didn't really want to stay there. It was a little too far away from my family, but I'd even packed up a business suit in case I had a job interview.
Oh, really?
Ended up having to leave it somewhere. It got wet and moldy, and it's probably still sitting in a closet in Sydney.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Would you say that shaped you for your future and what you were starting to become as a person?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think anytime you leave your own culture and you have the opportunity to see how other people live and their values, and it just expands your mind, expands your horizon, and I think it's something I know that my wife and I will encourage our children to do as well, so travel abroad.
So from that perspective, and just now what you want the audience to hear about your passion, what drives you, what's created your success and that respect for money, is there anything that you really want to tell everyone listening right now of a big impact that they need to consider for their future?
Well, I think, take care of the needs first and make that distinction for yourself about needs versus wants. And I think sometimes people get that a little bit confused. They go into the wants and kind of forget about the needs.
Sure.
And so I would say, having good counsel and good people around you that are in industries that you're not familiar with. I understand law and I understand finance, but I don't do my own finance,
Right.
On a day-to-day basis. So it's a little bit like a barber cutting their own hair. It's like you've got the skills to do it, but sometimes you're not the best person for the job to take care of your own. So for me, I need a lot of help, and I really appreciate having experts around me to help give that guidance. And think for yourself, obviously, but get that input.
Well, that's the first step. Always
Yes.
accepting that you need help.
Yes, absolutely.
So I'm so glad that you've taken the time to come and visit with us today and be on the show. And we just look forward to hearing feedback from people. And if they have questions, they can always send me the questions at questions@elisabeth.dawson.com. And we'll be able to help you get those pieces of information over to Michael if you have some things that you want to ask him about. So thank you again for being here today.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure, and happy holidays.
Same to you.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
What a great interview we just had with Michael Schumacher. Again, we're really glad that we had his opportunity to have time with him. And, just your call to action should be this. If you're thinking about all different types of real estate, whether it's residential, whether it's commercial, whether it's just opportunities in general, and you need financial information and financial structure and coaching for your future, reach out to us at 619-640-2622. And if you have any questions for Michael, please email your questions to questions@Elisabeth.Dawson.com. Again, thank you for watching Ways to Love Your Money, and we'll be back with another interview soon.